This is session number 401 of Morning Journal. I'm grateful that you are joining us for today's session. It's a Tuesday morning, so the week has gone into gear. I hope that yesterday was a good one for you and that your week is off to a solid start. We're live on Substack and on Instagram Live this morning for the second day. So we'll see how that goes. We're gonna keep these two channels going. So to get things started for session number 401, we're gonna start with some noticing. Right now, I notice is the prompt. Let's take a second to just check in to our current space, our current environment, check into what's going on around us, and just notice it. See if you can reserve judgment. Just see what comes into your awareness. See what's worthy of note. Or maybe choose to narrow your focus and pay closer attention to things that you may have overlooked before. Some things that you might have not considered as worthy of your attention. Maybe attend to something small right around you right now as a way to bring yourself into the current moment. I think one of the things I like to do when I'm noticing is to try to tap into something physical, a physical object, because I know I spend a lot of time personally. So much of my work is sort of digital. I don't get to really put my hands on the thing that I'm working with except through the medium of a keyboard or a mouse or a touchpad. So my noticing a lot of times it centers around paying attention to a physical object that I can hold in my hand. And then maybe noticing the sensations that come along with the physical activities that I do as I move around. And, whether it's cooking something or eating something, eating is a great opportunity for mindfulness and noticing. If you take a second to appreciate the flavor and appreciate everything that's in what you are consuming, it's another opportunity to notice. Some people have a difficult or complex relationship with the idea of mindfulness. It seems that it is a little too heavy-handed of a concept to bring to your everyday life. It feels like it's a too high or too aspirational of a thing to try to claim to do. To proclaim yourself to be mindful is to make a statement about your level of a spiritual evolvement in some way. At least that's the perception that some people have with that word. So maybe just use the word noticing. Everyone can notice. And look for everyday opportunities to notice. I know for me, I noticed the salad that I had last night. I don't know if I've been eating enough green things in my diet. So I noticed the flavor and the consistency, and I noticed how I felt after consuming it. Just noticing gives us an opportunity and creates a space for us to slow down. So in the chat, T. Mizzle says, I noticed that the temperature is decent. The temperature is decent. I know talking about the weather is one of the mundane things that, people do in conversation. If there's nothing else to talk about, say, well, how's the weather? But the fact of the matter is, if you're with someone, physically present with someone, that's one of the few things that you are both experiencing at the same time. So noticing that, I don't know what decent means for you as a early spring morning. I don't know what a decent temperature is. Where I am is 30 degrees, 34 degrees, and it feels 23. So whatever decent means for you. Actually, I don't mind the cold, so it just depends on what your activities are for today. Okay, so now that we've done some noticing, let's get into the conversation that we have planned for today. So our first prompt is, what have I learned that I have yet to put into action? So think about the lessons that you've encountered things that you've learned, whether it's a professional thing or a relationship related learning. Maybe you learned things about yourself. What have you learned that you've yet to put into action? Because sometimes there's a gap between knowing and doing. And there might be some places where you've encountered something that feels like wisdom, that feels like it's worth trying, but you not quite got to the point of actually putting it into action. Sometimes we have to encounter something a few times before we are confident to actually try it, to actually put it into play, to see how it works out in our situation. So, what's something that you've learned that you've yet to put into action? And as you consider this, as you consider these prompts, because a lot of times it can be very easy to go to the step of beating yourself up around the answer, but that's not the intention. It's really just to give you an opportunity to acknowledge these new lessons and to come back to them and say, okay, use your recently learned lessons as gentle reminders rather than as clubs to beat yourself over the head with. Our days go a certain way. We have these fixed pieces in place that are slow to change. So we might have learned better ways to do things. We might have come across some things that are helpful, but we haven't been able to integrate it yet. So this is just an opportunity to call that up. So one thing in the chat, someone says how to have a difficult conversation. How to have a difficult conversation. Yeah, that's a big one. I think sometimes even when we learn something, especially something that is along the lines of these emotional intelligence type things and these highly, these challenging interpersonal situations, especially, even once we learn how to do it and maybe we manage to do it here and there, but every time it feels, it never feels easy, you know? You still have to face down that resistance every time. So you can learn how to do it and you have to, and in putting it into practice, it becomes a thing that you do. Even if it doesn't get easy, it becomes a thing that you do. And fortunately, we can do hard things. We are built that way. We can actually do hard things. We don't need for everything that we do to become easy. So all the prompts that we have today are along this theme. So we're going to move on to the next part of the conversation. The prompt: what am I currently resisting that would improve my life if I allowed it? What am I currently resisting that would improve my life if I allowed it? One of the reasons, once we learn something, if we haven't put it in place, if we haven't implemented it, there's some kind of resistance that's there. Maybe something that has been held on to for too long. Maybe it's something that is familiar and both comfortable in the fact that we understand it and we can live with it, and destructive at the same time. I know a lot of times for me, in situations where sometimes I toil over a decision that really has already been made. Like in my heart, I've already made a decision, but I'm still slow to act on that decision. There's some doubt still there. There's some, there's some uncertainty on the other side of it. So again, there's that. It comes back to the gap between knowing and doing. So for T Mizzle, it's change in my daily routine. I've been resisting changing my daily routine, mainly working out. I think at the end of every day, we get a sense of how that day was. We have an assessment. Sometimes we even say to ourselves or say out loud to someone else that, I don't want, I don't want tomorrow to be like this. And then we wake up and then tomorrow is like that because we've worn that groove and we've kind of built that momentum in that direction. So looking at that daily routine, recognizing that, okay, maybe this isn't a way, but this is how I do. I don't have to think about it. Our brains are designed to take the easy route, and changing something like that, it requires you to take conscious thought to do that. And mentally, we don't want it. It's easier just to do what you've been doing, but maybe doing what you've been doing is not going to get you where you want to go. Let's come at this question or come at this idea from a positive, more affirmative angle with the final prompt in the conversation. And that prompt is, what am I in the process of outgrowing? What am I in the process of outgrowing? As this prompt acknowledges that we are not there yet, but it also recognizes that we are in the process. It's a way to kind of state your commitment to a process of growth. So we are recognizing or acknowledging a direction that we are headed. There's something that we are leaving behind or dispensing with. It may still be a part of our life, but we're in the process of outgrowing it. And that process is not a straight line of perfect growth and execution. It's a messy process. It's a process that has reversals where you make forward progress for a while and then you take some steps back and you have to redouble around and work around obstacles and learn new things about yourself. The growth process is never just a perfect straight line up. It always includes some side steps and some pauses and But through all of that, we can still acknowledge our commitment to growth, recognizing that, yes, we learn things, and sometimes it takes us a while to integrate the things that we learn to make our lives better. Sometimes we hold on to things. Some things continue to take up space in our life after they've served their purpose, and we resist the change that's necessary, even after we learn that even after we've learned that it's necessary, we resist it because it's difficult to let it go, to allow a new thing to come in. So whatever your area of growth, whatever area of growth you might have as a priority at the moment, if you are consciously working to address it, if you're consciously moving towards investigating ways to be better, trying new things, if it's something that is on your mind and that you continue to call your attention to, then you're in the process. You're in that first part of the process of maybe confusion and trying to gain clarity before you can move into an area of consistency in a new way of being. So, what have I learned that I've yet to put into action? What am I resisting that would improve my life if I allowed it? And what am I in the process of outgrowing? So this has been session number 401 of Morning Journal. Thank you so much for taking some time with me, and I hope that you have a good rest of your day. We'll see you next time.